Let's get over to it. So Starbucks, ladies and gentlemen, y'all ready to get it popping? First, let's get an idea of what's going on out here in San Francisco. And then we're going to go ahead and get to it because we got a lot of money to talk about. I want to give y'all a status update on what's going on out in these streets. And then we're going to go from there, all right?
Needs to happen.
Keeping that, boss? Robert?
In parts of San Francisco, this scene is a regular occurrence. Unhoused Americans moving street to street, like Anthony, who says he's been living in a tent for the past 3 years.
Why do they call them unhoused? Is that like the proper way to announce it or talk about it instead of saying homeless? Does that give people some form of dignity, or, you know, it makes them feel better about themselves or something like that? Because I just thought that people were using broken English. Why do they call people now, they call them unhoused instead of saying, shout out to the super chats, I'm going to be reading those shortly. Why do they call people unhoused instead of calling them homeless? Let's continue to see what's happening over in our great city of San Francisco.
Right after COVID, it was horrible out here.
What were you doing before then?
You know, mostly chef work. Being in the restaurants, you know, they shut them down. You know, it was hard to supplement the income in the work.
And you were initially paying $1,200 for rent to share a room.
Yep.
Anthony is one of the 170,000 unhoused Californians struggling to find a permanent home. The San Francisco Department of Emergency Management telling us in a statement, unfortunately, most people either decline to engage, decline offers of shelter, or have shelter already, and we cannot compel people to come inside. But homeless advocates say the city's current 3,000 shelter bed system is not always appropriate for everyone. As of today, there are at least 350 unhoused individuals still on that wait list.
So they have a wait list for shelters, right? Remember, we got the migrant crisis in which we're building tent cities. Wait list for shelters, approaching over 200,000 people that are homeless out there in San Francisco and California. Most of the time they make the trek out there because they have a community and because they have great weather. And San Francisco is literally falling into the pits now. The one thing that's interesting about this conversation is that we know that San Francisco has been falling into the dumps for decades. And it's not just San Francisco. There has been a homelessness crisis for as long as I can remember. As long as I've been traveling, as long as I've been able to pay attention, one of my passion projects was homelessness. I volunteered for over a year every single Saturday in order to understand the problem and to add value so that I can hopefully one day make a dent in it, which I can't. I think that there's more things at work that then feed into whether or not people become homeless. But now it's become our social norm, right? Especially over in San Francisco. It's normal for you to see cars and vans, more importantly. People are living out of their cars, they're living out of their trucks, and they're living out of their vans, and then they calling it van life, and then they create a YouTube channel behind it. It's normal for people to be washing up when Walmart opens up in the morning. And over there in California, specifically San Francisco, they don't even pay for the groceries. You get food, shelter, right? As long as you got a place to be able to sleep at night, this is y'all social norm. Let's continue over to San Francisco and see what's happening.
Nationally, homelessness has risen to over 500,000 people. The Golden State now makes up nearly a third of the nation's homeless population. The reasons are numerous: the high cost of living from the tech boom, the economic downturn during the pandemic, and mental health crises, all adding to San Francisco's homeless population. Jennifer Friedenbach, the executive director of the Coalition of Homelessness, is one of the people working tirelessly to find Anthony and others long-term shelter. Clearly, you have politics on your mind every day.
Yeah, I mean, this is a manufactured issue, homelessness. It was created by a lack of investment.
Shout out to John Doe. I'm going to be reading that super chat shortly.
Many across the state say they're frustrated with the growing encampments in their cities.
It looks like a junkyard on our block, and it's just not safe.
It's appalling.
It's absolutely appalling. It's not safe. It's unsanitary.
Over the summer, President Biden announcing an extra $3 billion in investment. But on the campaign trail, GOP presidential hopefuls have used the homeless crisis to slam Democratic.
In order for it to become an investment, there has to be a return. You could say grant, you could say throwing money into the wind, you could say just recklessly throwing money at the problem. But in order to have an investment in something, and this is one of the reasons why we need to hold our government officials accountable, it has to be a return, or at least it has to be an expected return. You have to be able to get people off the street to become productive citizens, off drugs. Over a third of who's documented to be homeless live over in California, specifically LA, San Francisco, San Diego. They're going to find a way to get there. They're going to build their tents. They're going to use the bathroom on the ground, on the floor, and then we're going to see what it is it go after that, right? Let's continue.
Leadership. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former President Donald Trump investing in ads targeting California voters.
No wonder why we've had so many people move from San Francisco to Florida over the last few years.
We will ban urban camping. Violators of these bans will be arrested, but they will be given the option to accept treatment and services if they're willing to be rehabilitated.
So, now, and I'm going to be reading these super chats shortly, and I'm going to be reading the Cash Apps also. Now that you have a general idea of what's going on over in California specifically, right? Now that you have a general idea, I want to bring you up to speed on what the businesses, specifically Starbucks, has decided to do over in San Francisco. Now that they've been facing this problem for an extended period of time, and we see what San Francisco was turning into, a homelessness camp.
Starbucks is joining a long list of large businesses to shutter stores in San Francisco. Here's a look now at the cafes set to close. The locations primarily concentrated in the financial district, as well as one located in Nob Hill. KTVU's Amber Lee joins us now after speaking with customers and a coffee shop owner who used to work for Starbucks about all these closures. Amber.
Julie, we're in the financial district. Behind me is one of the Starbucks slated for closure. Now, many customers tell me they love the idea of having many Starbucks around because of the convenience. This Starbucks at the corner of Mission and Main in San Francisco's financial district is the go-to spot for people who work in the area.
I come twice a day, in the morning and right now. Yeah. It's just really nice to be able to walk across the street.
But as of October 22nd, 7 locations, including this one, will be closed. Most are concentrated in the downtown financial district area. In a written statement, a Starbucks spokesperson said, in part, each year, as a standard course of business, we evaluate the store portfolio to determine where we can best meet our community and customers' needs.
Long story short, they evaluate where the underperforming stores are, and if it's worth it to continue to plow money in investment, hoping to get a return on that investment. And obviously, the majority of the spaces that they're operating in San Francisco no longer fits their needs. That's the C student perspective, all right?
Starbucks, at least from what I know, has always acted very quickly in like shifting business strategies. If something's not working, they're like, gone.
Aiden Compton tells me he was store manager for the Starbucks on Stockton and Sutter Streets before opening up his own coffee houses in the North Beach neighborhood and on Fillmore Street. He says Starbucks has a lot of stores that are no longer generating the business they did before the pandemic.
But as soon as downtown cleared out, business dried up for everybody.
Now, remember, y'all, when I go to work in the morning, when I come down here into the office in the morning, right? One thing that I'm noticing that has not existed since maybe 2019, right? One thing that I noticed that has not existed since maybe 2019 is that every route to get here downtown is packed. Whereas it used to take me 30 minutes to be able to get here, to get to downtown into my office so I can come in here, work, shoot content, Millionaire Morning Show and everything like that. It takes me on average about 55 minutes to get here and 55 minutes to get back out to my family after I leave the office if I'm driving during the normal travel and commute times. Now, if I get up really, really early or I leave a little bit later, you know what I'm saying? I might be able to kind of get a little bit closer to that time. But I'm starting to notice that everybody is now being required to go into work. All of that work from home, either you got some kind of hybrid schedule or you starting to be able to move over into that space. I'm one of the lucky ones in that a part of what it is that I negotiated is that I'll come into the office maybe twice a year, 2 or 3 times a year, depending on whether or not we got contractors that we got to come in and meet or so on and so forth. But in a general sense, I'm one of the lucky ones that still hold on to a corporate position. And one of the reasons why I'm still holding on to that position is because I got the leverage that I am as great as I am in that position and that I'm not unwilling to go back into the office. But I see so many people on the road now because everybody is required to go back into the office. Now, why are they required to go back into the office? Why are they incentivized to go back into the office? Well, A, you need this commercial real estate because it's down about 16% in average price, which is completely different than what home values are doing, right? So you need these commercial properties to continue to grow. And then also on top of that, that is the lifeblood for any city. You cannot be successful in growing any city or having any great community with everybody working from home. It's just a fact. You have to have people going outside. They got to go outside and spend money. They got to buy gas. They got to go to the grocery store. They have to make sure that they go to lunch. They can network. They go to the latest hotspot. All of that stuff, right? And so I think that it's a good thing for people to get out the house in order to continue to go out and be productive in society. But when you see environments where they don't incentivize people to do so, and remember, most of these situations that you guys have on your hand is not as a result of your own choices. It's as a result of a manufactured circumstance or situation in which they clear something out or they create this environment that's not conducive to where it is that you're supposed to be going as a community and growing your city and then creating jobs, because everything is interdependent on anything, right? We're going to go over to the strike in a little bit in a couple different stories, and I'm going to break down exactly how it's not just the UAW members that are being affected by what's going on with the strike. When Sean Fain decides to strike, all of the suppliers, all of the restaurant people, all of these people are being laid off now, and it's now extending its tentacles, but it's also going to blow up and help another industry, but we're going to get into that also. Let's continue over with this.
Starbucks says it is, quote, reevaluating our footprint, including adding and reopening some stores it had closed, including this one at Powell and O'Farrell at Union Square.
There's more variety here, so people have more to choose from.
Vasconiris is the former executive director of the Fillmore and West Portal Merchants Associations. He says business closures are never good, but that Starbucks is adjusting to changing consumer trends. The popularity of other types of beverage shops are likely a factor.
The emergence of the variety of boba shops that we see in the marketplace right now is a big reason for the closure of some of these mainstream coffee shops like Starbucks.
No, the main reason for the closure of the Starbucks, at least 7 locations over in San Francisco, is because San Francisco is trash. San Francisco is one of the trash cities with a trash mayor. Most of the businesses are closing. Everybody is leaving, and so they may leave a couple stores open here or there where they can direct traffic or where they have some form of foot traffic so that people can continue to get Starbucks so that they can continue to compete within the marketplace. But the reality is that brick and mortar stores, you have to be very, very careful what you open and what you decide to open. Even when we was doing to build a business, I put it on hold inside of the Patreon because it just wasn't making sense. It didn't make sense to put in $100,000, $150,000 in order to build up a brick and mortar space when I didn't see the return on investment. And so we pivoted and we said, okay, well, let's put it on hold and let's wait and let's figure out what we're going to do a year, 2 years from now so that it's actually conducive and I can show y'all what makes sense. Part of being a business owner or part of making a business decision is figuring out what not to do. And then you have this rash of crime that's breaking out all over San Francisco, California, and everything like that. I'm not just going to throw money at the wall just for the sake of throwing money at the wall. It has to make sense. And until we get there, we're going to make informed decisions. We're going to adjust based off of what's going on here. Even inside of the Patreon, I had a conversation with y'all and I broke down what my lease requirements were or how to negotiate a good lease when you decide to open up a brick and mortar business. You want to do it on an escalating scale that gives the because you guys have all of the leverage because there's so many opportunities and there's so many vacancies. You have the leverage, and what you can do is you can negotiate that contract to have a renewal instead of signing a 5-10-year contract, which gives the commercial building all of the leverage, or the landowner, the landlord, all of the leverage when it comes to keeping you in that space that's not conducive, because the business environments and the requirements are changing faster than they ever have before, right?